Welcome to A Prosecco, the podcast that raises a glass to moms who are transitioning from empty nester into the next beautiful phase of life as a free bird. I'm your host, Bernie Slowey. I'm a mother of two sons who have grown and flown, and I'm also a former corporate executive, filmmaker, writer, speaker, and entrepreneur who has helped women transfer into their authentic selves to uncork their infinite sparkling possibilities. So whether you're sipping a Prosecco or your favorite beverage of choice, join me as we pop open today's message in a bottle. Welcome and welcome back to A Prosecco. Today I have a special guest, my dear friend Karla Dewitt, who has recently moved from Colorado. We met in Colorado.
Yeah.
Welcome, Karla.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so thrilled you're here because now I have had one other interview and it was with my husband, Joe. So the fact that you are actually my first official guest outside the family.
Yes.
But you're family.
Right. I feel privileged. I'm so excited.
I'm glad you're here because you gave me really interesting perspective. And so right before we jump in, because I really want you to start with your background story so that we understand who you are and why you've made this leap to Florida. But we want to introduce our little friend who's wearing a sweater today for Christmas. And Karla, you decorated our glasses, our flutes, with some really wonderful decoration and cheer with pomegranates and rosemary.
Yes.
So very festive.
Yes.
So we got excited and already opened the bottle. But we have the little cap on.
Yes.
So would you like to do the honors?
I will. Pop.
Yay! Go ahead and please.
Okay, yes.
Guest first.
Oh.
You.
Oh, well.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because the truth serum is going to reveal, thank you so much, more about you, Karla, and the topic we're going to be discussing today. And what perspective you shared with me was just so fascinating that I thought it would be really insightful for the parents who not only just as empty nesters, but making a big transition and leap like that you have. Woo! Well,
okay. No napkins.
Well, that's okay.
See, this is like what I would do for a living is I've taken care of everyone's children as a nanny for 35 years. And normally I would clean up the spill.
Well, in Japan, when you spill over, it's good luck.
All right. Well,
so cheers. Yummy.
All right.
We did go through a bottle of this last night just to test it out, but it's just as delicious today.
It is. Thank you.
So Karla, let's talk about you and your background. Where were you born?
Okay.
And start from there.
All right. Well, I was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I have an older sister. She's 2 years older than I am. And I guess from an early age and how I started my career, I was 11 when I took my first aid and babysitting course and started on my path. I had, some struggles with school and things like that. And getting me through was a little bit of a struggle all through high school. And I knew I wanted to take care of children to help them maybe get through some of their struggles that they would have. So when I left high school, I went to the East Coast to be a nanny there. Returned to Michigan, where I had a 7-year career as a live out and live-in nanny. And then I bought my first house at 23, and I started doing daycare in my home.
Impressive, though, 23, and you had your own house.
Yes, and so I did daycare in my home for 10 years, which I am still in touch with those children and those families. Which is amazing through Facebook. And when I go home to visit, I still see them and they're having children of their own. Then it led me to Denver in 2002. So I have been in Denver 20 years before I took my leap here to Florida, because as empty nester moms and dads, my nest is empty also. Yes. So I'm in an interesting spot in my life. One thing that I have valued and thought about through these last few years is the fact that I've had my lifetime as a non-parent, but caring for other children, that I've had time to process a lot of what I might want to do a few years from now, right? As I grew and as families changed, and, I had empty nest a few different times because I'd be with a family for 8.5 years. And then I started an empty nest. I did some doula training, certification, postpartum labor, and hypnobirth training.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, yes. And I did that for a few years along with being a full-time nanny. And just recently, I finished an 8-year career with a family in Park Hill of Denver. And it's time for a change. So I took the big leap of faith to Florida
And
and
here you
followed you.
are. Yeah, here you are. And what I find interesting about what you said, as far as you being experiencing your own empty nest of sorts, right? Like you haven't had your own children, but really you were so instrumental in raising other people's children.
Yes, yes.
And so the loss that you feel every time that you left a family,
Yeah,
but the other perspective that you have is that you were able to watch the children grow, and as your 30 plus years as a nanny,
yeah,
you've seen many children
yes,
get to the adult age. And so I think you'll be able to provide some wonderful insight. So share a
yes,
little bit as far as before getting to Florida,
yeah,
what there was what you said as far as like what drew you. You obviously having nurturing nature
yes,
and that you were so caring for other people.
yes.
So talk about more as to what things that really you noticed about the parents' involvement as a nanny with these children.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I have felt with parents, they left me with their children for 8 years to 10 years of while they were having a profession. And I even sometimes feel like when there was guilt that I would leave, I do know the moms and the dads, they also have guilt while their children are growing and in my
Hmm.
hands. So I know that I've been able to focus though when I go home and on weekends for my next path where they haven't had that chance. And um, you really have to start processing things before your children leave and obviously get them ready to fly so you can fly. And I just feel like there's so many opportunities for us out there. I had so many ideas of what I could do and what I wanted to be when I grew up. And at this point, coming to Florida and leaving that behind, leaving my nanny career behind, I had to give myself a few months of space, which is happening right now.
Hmm.
And I had to pick one, and I'm going for it. And I think it's always called me, my new career path that I would like to take. I've been reaching for it all these years, but I never did anything about it. And now I just know I have to do that. And if that's not what works for me in a year or 2 or 3, um, I can choose something else.
Yeah, that's the beauty.
Yes.
This transition, and we
Mm-hmm.
were talking about this on our walk
Mm-hmm.
about the creative void,
Mm-hmm.
so that you may not have a definitive idea just right now. You had a big career change. And
Yes.
so leaving that, you're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with the new identity, but
Yes.
you also did this huge, not just a change in your career, but
Mhm.
also where you live and starting over.
Yes. It's scary.
Now, talk about how you feel about
Exciting.
that, because, and I want to go back to when you were playing this role that is so essential in the raising of young lives,
Yeah.
because as you can practice for yourself,
Mhm.
as you're watching all these, you've had so many changes as you shifted with
Yeah.
families.
Yes.
So how do you see yourself like applying some of those skill sets to what you're doing now? Because in this void where
Mhm.
you're not having to just go into a job per
Yeah.
se, you're looking at what it is that you want for your next chapter.
Yes. Yes. I actually don't even know how to explain that. I kind of feel like it it just came upon me. I took that leap and really I'm in the middle of it. Um, as far as some of the things I've had to process, though, it is the guilt. It's leaving the families. It's should I have done that? Is there abandonment that comes with this? Being with a child for 8.5 of their years, what does that do to them?
Great
And
point.
yeah, and then also with people our age, we also have aging parents that come into play. So
That's the
now,
sandwich generation where you're dealing with your parents, and then you also,
Mhm.
with the kids, you're really
Yeah,
sandwiched
yes,
in the
yes.
caregiving.
And figuring out an empty nest and what you want to do next. So I feel like for me, I am taking this opportunity to change my career and my identity of being the nanny. Because when I walk in a room, it's always the nanny's here. Oh, here comes the nanny. And I was so defined by that, it was hard for me to let go of. So I know as parents, you're defined by that career and your children, it's a lot of work and letting go and um releasing some of that and learning to let go is a process. And yeah, sometimes and then you with your aging parents, my parents are young. Um but I feel like I might have 5 years for myself to try this new and challenging opportunity because I want to be there for my parents as they do age. So I'm here to have fun and start new um and I guess I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, why did you pick Florida?
Um well, it's warm. And I think even at a young age, a lot of my friends' parents went to Florida every year, going from Michigan, and a lot of my friends are starting to move here, and I followed you, and I have friends in Naples and I Jacksonville. They're all just coming down, and so I thought, well, I'm going to do it now, and I have a place in Denver that I'm holding on to, and see where this takes me.
When we first met too, we bonded right away. And what I love about you, Karla, is your nature, your spirit. It's so positive and vibrant, and you're not shy whatsoever, and you meet people so easily. So for you to come and move to Florida, and then by yourself, this isn't like you weren't picking up with a family or a spouse.
Hmm.
So that where does that come from as far as this zest for new experiences?
Well, I did it 20 years ago when I moved to Denver, and so I knew I could do it again. Um, Coming here to Florida, I feel like it's an excitement, it's opening. I took the leap and I'm gonna like let go of what has held me back all these years because I could have done it at any time, really. I've lasted many years with families, which is rare. They don't usually stay 8 years. It's usually a couple of years for a nanny and a family.
Mm.
So I did have opportunities, but I just kept going back to what came natural for me. And I know at this point in my life, for me to figure out who I really am, I have to go for something different. And I'm letting go of that past and I'm actually letting life lead my way and seeing what I wake up to. It's just very different every day. And right now, I'm going to be studying for an exam that I'm going to pass. Like I said, I struggled back in high school with school. I've taken some college courses and I've taken some of my certifications, but like I'm really excited. I'm excited to pass. I'm going to do this. I'm just going to, yes.
Let's just toast that you are going to pass.
Cheers.
We're already
Cheers, too.
celebrating
Yes,
right now.
yes. We're celebrating early. So I appreciate that.
As we're
Hmm.
taking a sip to toast you
Yeah.
and your exam.
Yes.
So when you are talking about like what you're doing to study for this exam, and something you said though that really struck out at me is that when people are hiring nannies, because I recall I wanted to have a nanny, but we took our kids to
Hmm.
daycare,
Hmm.
and both my husband and I were working 9 to 5 corporate jobs that we had to get to pick up the kids. There wasn't someone at home watching our kids. And so I would imagine that when you're talking about, hey, I'm just open to what's ever going to happen, right? Well, let's see what happens next.
Yeah.
But in your role as nanny, I'm sure you're very scheduled
Yeah.
and everything is planned.
Yes, everything was planned, and I love that. I love structure. I love hands-on play for the kids, but also, they need structure, which will lead them to their, when they're ready to fly, which it's interesting for me. A lot of my friends were able to grow with their kids and have transitions along the way. So when their kids went to junior high, it was a celebration and excitement and new sports and new classes. Then go on to high school, sports, classes, things change, and parents actually get to evolve with them and do like these exciting things and even learn from doing homework and doing projects. For me, I feel like I was a little bit held back from learning years with high schoolers and applying for college. I stayed with like the 10-year-old range and under. So I always joke that I'm great with colors and numbers. But like to go into calculus and things like that, where my friends have been able to do, they've been able to have different transitions in their life, and I kept feeling like I was living Groundhog Day.
Oh,
Like
interesting. Yeah.
I went to a certain age and then I switched out, and certain age and switched out. I never got to fully bloom as a parent would.
To go through all the different stages
Yes.
and
Yeah.
phases of childhood. And
Yeah.
how did you feel when you would leave?
Well, it's hard. I mean, they were my everyday, it wasn't a job for me. Um, it was making sure those children will be the best that they can be, and encouragement, and I just was really there for them every day. And to leave that is difficult. And like I have said before, you carry a little bit of that guilt and the abandonment as that hurt the children later. And I know that the parents are great parents and they have the tools that they need to use now, as their kids are older, and now they get to do that second process that I wasn't able to do. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough because they're my family,
Mhm.
and so leaving, but they're not. They are, but they're not. They're not my children. And I was identified with them. Even I've met so many moms over the years that have become my best friends. I have moms from preschool. They're 17-year friendships now, that I've remained friends with.
Well, that's also probably unique. I would imagine that you being a special person in their lives and to continue
Mhm.
to be in their lives because, you may have stopped watching these
Mhm.
kids at 8,
Mhm.
but then you're still in touch with many of them.
Yes, I am. Yes.
And so tell me how does that feel as far as like when they do reach out to you? And that's got to be heartwarming to be able to see their progress. But how does that make you feel as far as when you hear from them? Is that, or if you don't hear
Oh, I
from
love
them?
it. I
Okay.
love it.
And what if you don't hear from them?
Oh, well, I've had so many children. A couple of years ago, I had one of my daycare children back, and that was in my 20s, from 23 to 33. And well, I'm only 43 now, so we can't.
It's just a number. Age is just a number.
But I've had my daycare kids. I've had Andrew came to visit me and stay the night with his sister Angela as they were going through to California. I had another one of my daycare kids, Katie, who I watched her and her three sisters. And Katie came and stayed with me for 2 weeks. She was going to come for a couple of days, and she ended up staying for 2 weeks and went on to her journey in California. She was kind of driving around and camping in her car and like doing fun, exciting things all, on her own. And then she came back on her way through again. Like these, and I changed her diapers, but our heart is still so connected. Like we really when we hugged, we didn't want to let go.
Oh.
And so I treasure those relationships. And I love to have visitors. I love them to come and visit me. And some of the moms, I mean, they already booked their tickets. The moms of my daycare kids who they hired me when they were pregnant. And now the kids are, engaged and having, but one of those moms from my daycare is coming down to visit me, already booked her ticket. So I've had close relationships with my families.
And was it for you, though, when you talked about like being able to make your own transition and leave and then go to another family, as far as what you said, though, you've experienced your own empty nesting.
Yeah.
Of sorts,
Yes.
right? Because the loss comes in different ways.
Yeah.
And so when you would leave, would you transition immediately to another family, or would you wait in between?
Well, with my 8.5 year family in Lowry, after that, I actually went to get my certification in labor doula, postpartum doula, and hypnobirthing because I thought, okay, I'm going to do this as a transition, and I knew it would come natural for me. So it was easy. And then as I did that, it was hard because to be a labor doula, you have to make sure you're ready at 2 a.m. in the morning or in the middle of the day. So
Because when the baby wants to come, the baby's coming.
Yeah. So I naturally transitioned back into a nanny, and I did that for 8 years with that last family. So I am now trying to do something that doesn't come natural for me. So it's a big leap.
When you say that it doesn't come natural for you, why do you feel that way as far as this big leap?
Yeah.
Without having anything being too tied to any, or any person with the kids. So talk to me about that. What's holding you in this space?
Well, it's hard for me to answer because I think that's what we all go through is trying to figure out why we're held in that space. And I could have been held in it longer. And so for me to sign up for my courses and to do all of that right now, it was actually something that I felt guided to do. Is it a whim? For me, I had so many ideas. I had to pick one because I'm in the middle of it. So you pick one and you go for it. And that's where I am.
Well, when you say on a whim,
yeah,
I know that you'd been talking about it.
Sure.
And you came back or you were actually visiting a year ago.
Yeah.
If it was even that long ago.
It was January.
So you did have like a sneak peek.
Well, I thought I was on my 5-year plan. So I thought I wanted to move to Florida by the time I turned 60. Well, it came early with some events that happened through my career and becoming a nanny and transitions for other families. And when I came down here in January, people were like, well, what's holding, why are you not doing it now? Why are you giving yourself 5 years? And so someone had said, why don't you do a 2-year plan? And if it ends up being 3, that's okay. And so I went back home and some events changed in the middle of summer. And I thought, why not? And everything transitioned perfectly, like it was aligned for me. It all came natural. Everything fit in my car perfect. I found a renter. It was amazing. And then to bring all my things here, everything fits perfect, exactly where it needs a place, and I didn't bring too much. So pack light and go.
Yeah, you did a lot of purging.
I did a lot of purging. Yes, and it feels good.
Talk to me about that. Like you're purging, and because you've been through many purges, though, and again, even with the transitions from families and everything that you set up, as far as okay, here's your schedule that you put together, and as far as the families, that you're watching, that you put together the structure, and then you leave. So how do you truly let go of that? Because it's something that you were building, and you don't even get to see the end result, particularly.
Yeah. Yes, I don't get to see the end result. That has been hard for me at different stages in my life. And it can be frustrating to know you're not going to see that all the way through.
Mm.
As far as my purging, you wouldn't believe what I had all in Rubbermaids. I'm pretty organized. I had books and papers and workbooks and music and toys and things from classes that I saved. One of my daycare kids, I purged, and when I went to Michigan last, I brought one of their baby blankets with me. I had saved the baby blanket in a Rubbermaid for 30 years, and she has twins now. And I thought I have to bring this blanket to her mom and dad.
Oh,
And
wow.
I brought
That's
the blanket home, and that was my purge.
amazing.
I actually gave it back to them. But my intentions were to always mail it to her, and I didn't. And then all of a sudden, I had to. And I ended up taking my last trips that I thought in Denver. So I went to places that I hadn't been, Palisades, Ouray, Telluride. I'd been there for 20 years. And I called my girlfriend who comes out every year and said, we need to do this. We were going to do it for 20 years. We were going to take the train out. And I'm like, we're driving it. Let's go. And she flew out and we spent a week together traveling my last bit of Colorado.
Isn't it
So
interesting?
that was part of my purge. I had to get my trips in.
You know how you all of a sudden feel like I got to do the bucket list items before I leave. I've
Yeah.
lived in this beautiful state for so long and haven't done this while I lived here for the 20 years.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden I got to get it done very
Yeah.
fast. And I felt that same way and feel that we didn't quite get to the bucket list.
Yeah.
So how is that lesson going to transfer to today as you're exploring? Because, you know,
Right.
when we first moved here,
Yeah.
we still needed to understand where we were going to actually
Yeah.
plant our roots.
Right.
And we still haven't.
Sure.
So when you think about, like, not only is your career
Yeah.
a factor of what you want to, have you settled on really where you want to live?
No, I haven't settled at all. I've only been here, it'll be 2 months tomorrow. So,
Cheers to that
yeah.
too. Here, I'm drinking faster than you
Okay,
are.
here.
I may have
Oh.
more practice on the show to do this, but I want you to.
On the show?
Yes, I mean,
Or
I'm always drinking on the job.
Yeah, and I can't drink on the job. Yeah, so I'm not used to it.
Right? This is
Right,
a fun
yeah.
thing. Yeah, of course, you're very responsible when you're with the kids. You have to show
Right,
that I'm
yes.
on the ball, and then
Yeah.
and the fun I
we've
get to
had great
have.
times. I was able to have a very fulfilling nanny career. I mean, I was able to, go to the pool and go to the park and, skiing. I would take little ski trips and I brought one of the girls to Michigan with me for my family reunion. She came with me for a week and she was like 7 years old, 6 years old.
That's very cool.
And so I've been very fortunate to enjoy a lot of what Colorado, hiking with the kids, Rockies games, my friends' children's little league football games I would bring kids to. So I've gotten to do a lot of really amazing things with the kids. I've had a great career.
What an interesting connection, though, you have with and have created with
Mhm.
so many of these kids who are probably, I imagine that they remember these good times with you.
Mhm.
What do you think they would want to tell you today?
Oh, well, I know what they'd want to tell me.
Do tell.
And really it's an actually, an unspoken bond that you just know you have. It's mainly it's when you give them a hug. And when I see these kids, even as they grew up, they would just get on my lap when they're, from my daycare kids, they'd get on my lap at 8 years old, 9 years old, and I'd braid their hair when I would like go back to visit, and they just would sit in my lap. And, um, would always, put it out there, like if they need me, they can call me. And they know my number. I've taught them my number. If you need to call me like anytime. So even at a young age, I taught the kids my phone number. So if they ever needed it. But then Facebook came along and now we can connect with pictures and it's an unspoken bond. that is strong, that really nobody gets except for that child and myself.
I believe that. So
Yeah.
if you were to give, if you had the opportunity to share with them a message, what would you tell them?
Mm, gosh, it would make me teary-eyed.
That's okay.
I just want them to know that, well, I would hate for them to think I left them. That time happens and you have to let go and we have to be strong and it's a natural part of life and it's a process. Um, but I want them to know that no matter what, I am always here for them and they are in my heart like you wouldn't believe. So it's a treasure.
There's probably a bond that this trust that you're talking about that they
Mhm.
share with you
Mhm.
that they don't share with anyone else
Mhm.
with that kind of
I would have
nurturing.
to say that that is definitely true because um we were together so often. I mean, it was like every day for hours, right? And then, school happened, but I'd have them for the summers. And I was there to put the Band-Aid on and to brush their hair and take care of them and help, bathe them or, scheduling healthy snacks, healthy, creating healthy foods to help them grow and have great brain health. I mean, I wanted to do all that for them. And so yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, I just think it's a bond that will never be broken.
Do you have maybe some thoughts as far as like sharing something that was really healthy when you did make the separation from the family that occurred?
Well, for me, as far as myself or with the kids,
Both.
um, I think it was more of an easy transition. We didn't want to make it like goodbye. I never felt like I wanted to say goodbye. So I tried to make it easy and, you know, of course, a little gift and, to have as a keepsake. But for the most part, I wanted it to be a slow transition. I didn't want it to be goodbye.
When you say slow transition, what does that mean?
Um, Well, that maybe I'm still in transition with them. Maybe even though I left, say, a year ago, it'll always be a transition moving forward because I don't really stop thinking about them. One of my gals, she's 17 now, and there isn't a day that goes by. I left that family probably 8 years ago, and there isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about her. And my last 2 long terms family, same thing. There's so many things that remind me of them. It doesn't go away.
No, I would think that, even with the kids who I was talking about leaving them at the daycare,
Yeah,
that, when we had someone who passed away that was one of their caretakers,
yeah,
this was the children's center, and my kids wanted to go to the funeral because these are
yeah,
impactful
yes,
people on their very young lives. And talk about like when you said 8 years old, that it's 7 and 8 years old when they start to have true reasoning, right?
yes, yes,
And realizing
yes,
like, oh, this person that I've
yeah,
grown
it's
up with and trusted
yeah, it's gone.
is gone. And then
Yeah,
for you to see that, okay, not only you mentioned abandonment several times.
yeah.
So is that a feeling of guilt that you have?
It is a feeling of guilt. But I am pretty good at separating that and knowing that I can't hold that. And that's part of my being single, where I didn't have children of my own and I had to leave them. That was a process. It's a false guilt. It's a guilt that we don't have to carry, even as a parent, when we send our children off. Did we do the right thing? Are they going to be ready? It's a false guilt. And we shouldn't carry false guilt. Um, it really shouldn't even, we should not feel guilty about the things and the choices we do in life because we don't know any different. And, you know, eh, I know that they have great parents. So it made it easier for me to know that they are well cared for. They're lovely families, and it's time for me to move forward. And you have to accept it. Otherwise, I would be held in the space.
Well, that's a great correlation, though, as far as how to use that in life. You're making this big change.
Mhm.
And again, do you feel like, okay, I've abandoned people in Colorado when I made this big leap to,
I feel that way in Michigan for 20 years. I feel like that connection that I um want with them really is not going to happen. And I came to realization, a friend of the family's came out to Denver to visit, and we had a conversation of how, these relationships that I would really love to continue because my cousin's kids, they don't know me, and they're becoming 12 and 13. When I go home, I'm the lady, I'm the cousin, you know, my I'm my sister, Denise. This is Denise's sister. So I'm Denise's sister when
mm,
I see these kids, and I haven't been able to hold on to those, cousins are your cousins, and that doesn't change, right? Those bonds. Um, I'm sad that I don't get to know their children as well, but it was my choice to leave. And I was called to leave, and I'm called to come to Florida. And I hope they come to Florida. I was in Denver for 24 years. Those who didn't get to make it, my parents come down here for the winter for a few months. I'm here to now when my parents come, I'm going to see them more this year than I have in the last 20 years. And I'm going to make it a point to drive up and see them every other weekend, and they can come down to my place now. So I am gaining back my parents that, time I
oh,
lost with my parents. I haven't spent Christmas with them in years. Spent it with one of my nanny families. Every year I've spent Christmas morning with them and Christmas Eve. But I'll get to see my parents this year.
yeah,
I'm
that's great.
excited.
Well, and as a role model to the kids that you cared for, what you're doing, and if you're still in touch with them, you're going to be that inspiration for them because
Yes.
they'll see that, hey, this is someone that not only was able to make. I think that what I'm hearing from you is that as hard as it was, and maybe there was a sense of abandonment and maybe some guilt, but you're working through that, right? It's not about being guilty because I think that you're absolutely right. Guilt is such a low vibing
Yes.
thing that we do to ourselves.
Yeah.
And in fact, like the guilt and shame is like the lowest vibrating emotions we can have. So to see that you are on this personal journey to make a big change,
Hmm.
they're going to be able to witness what you do because I'm sure there's
Yes.
still that love and admiration for
Hmm.
you.
Well, and I think just like uh I'm following you. My friend Joy is down in Naples. You've met
Yeah,
Joy.
she's wonderful.
Yes, and so like there's going to be more friends to follow because we're all seeing each other take this step, and the encouragement. Now is my time. My friends in Denver, they still have children that are graduating from high school and getting ready to go on to college. My friends in Michigan, most of them are starting to have grandbabies. So I've actually been through a couple of different transitions with my Michigan friends and family to my Denver friends because they started having their families later because I came later. And so I've been through two transitions of graduations and weddings and babies to now I'm at graduations, weddings will be coming and babies will be coming. So it's been interesting for me to be through two of them without any children of my own.
Oh yeah, you're witnessing the cycle of
I
life.
do.
And
Yes.
it's nice to hear that you're able to actually have some celebration opportunities with them as they're
Yes.
growing.
Yeah.
And what about as far as if you were to have insight or share some advice from your perspective, being this nanny, it's like having the nanny diaries right here. What kind of advice would you want to share with parents from your experience?
Oh, well, gosh. there are so many things I know about the families, right, that nobody else knows. Um, as a nanny and caring for their children and being in their homes, there's that confidentiality and the trust. They were able to know that they could leave for work and they didn't have to worry about a thing. Sometimes you transition every year with a new nanny, and that's hard. What's this new nanny going to do the next year? Um, treat your nannies well. Make them part of the family. Let them know that when they are ready to transition on either side, that they won't be forgotten
Mm.
and that they are a gift. It really it goes down to treating the people that work for you well, whether it's a nanny or a housekeeper or someone that comes into your home, your landscapers, your gardeners. They're such important people that are taking care of your home and your life. Um, they need to be treated well.
That's a great point. That regardless,
Yeah,
that everyone ultimately,
yeah.
it's not about the titles that we hold,
Mm-hmm.
and we all want to be seen, heard, and
Yeah.
appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
So, what if you were to offer advice to parents, and especially, right now, this first season, we're really focusing on empty nesters.
Yeah,
You've seen
yeah,
many times
yeah.
as the kids have grown and flown. And
Yes.
even though you weren't the caretaker at the
Yeah.
time, but you've
Mm-hmm.
kept in touch with them, what are
Mm-hmm.
maybe some advice that you would offer to parents?
Well, I would have to say that you did the best that you can in any stage. Whether you're 20 years old when you have your first child or you wait until you're 40, it's really just knowing that you did the very best you can. And you know what? Sometimes it's not always going to be the best days or the best choice. And there's arguments and there's, right? I mean, it's not perfect. Um, but at the end of the day, it could be every day is leading up to those children being able and you knowing that they're going to be fine. Um, you have to let it go. You have to let it go. You have to clip their wings. They've got to do their own thing and start early, maybe start planning a trip for yourself for that transition. So when your kids go off to college or, your second one goes, maybe plan yourself a couple-week trip or some days at the spa and spread it out. And not that doesn't always afford people, but you treat yourself on what feels good to you and plan for that transition early enough ahead so you have something to do to create um, something interesting and fun for yourself as they go off.
So, as a caretaker that you've been doing that so much for everyone else, the advice you just gave, are you doing that for yourself?
Um, yes, I actually feel like I am in the midst of it. I I'm doing my thing. I'm doing which sometimes I think about that too. Am I selfish? Right? I'm by myself. But I guess, the opportunity didn't arise for me to have a family. I can't fret about something that can't happen. So I've done a lot of processing in my life and this is my time right now before I, have to maybe take care of my parents because my caregiving is going to come for them next. This
Mm,
is my minute. So
yeah.
I did care providing my whole life. I'm taking a break, a minute. I'm going to start a little something fun to um, challenge myself. And I get to caregive for my parents. I'm planning on that.
That's another circle back, right? Like
It will
it is
be.
a cycle that we all go through and
Yeah.
experience.
Hmm.
And I feel the same way, by the way, as far as like our next role potentially being grandparents.
Hmm.
And we're wanting to take the time right now to embrace this
Yes.
period. So
Hmm.
before our kids get married and have the grandbabies,
Hmm.
to
Yes.
really have that freedom
Yeah.
of doing what we want.
Yeah.
So you've had this gift of being able to see so many kids. Like you don't just have the two, right? Like I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
You
Right.
have so
Right.
many
Yes.
kids. And then it's almost like the joke of like being a grandparent, you can spoil your
Yeah.
grandchildren and
Yeah.
give them back.
Yes.
And you having that same kind of thing, but you were in a situation where you were also raising a lot
Yeah.
of these kids.
Yes.
And so as you make your life transition, what kind of, what would you want to be able to have these children? And really, as your parents are going to need you, like,
Yeah.
what is it that you want to leave as a legacy?
Oh my goodness. Um, I feel like what I know from people who have met me and the families who have met me, my friends, um, I think they all would say that, and you kind of said it from the beginning. I'm outgoing, I'm friendly, I connect with people, I love to meet people, I love to get to know their hearts. My family relationships and my friend relationships are years and years and years. I'm still friends with my friends from elementary and sixth grade and junior high, and I still see them and I call them. I talk to my friend Steve. We've been friends since sixth grade. I talked to him today. He called and checked in on me, and like my relationships, my heart, I don't know, it holds on to people. I think that's maybe my legacy is that I'm there for everybody and I stay connected. I like to keep us connected. That's been my journey. I love my people. I love the kids. Like oh, if I could have a party every day, right?
When you're talking about that, as far as what your legacy, it's not about so much about what you did in life and have this, your name is on a billboard or on a business per se, but it's about who you are. And it reminds me of the quote from Maya Angelou about it's not how what you said to someone as much as how you made them feel
Yeah.
that is what makes a lasting impression
Yeah.
and creates the legacy.
Mhm.
And so if you were, no matter what you continue on your next path,
Yeah.
I think what you rely on is those relationships at the end of the day.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
And that probably has currency comes in many forms.
Yeah.
So that the relationships that you've created, cultivated,
Yes.
and nurtured
Yeah.
so that wherever you land, but today, if you were to even look at, I want to be able to connect and offer these words of advice for the kids,
Yeah.
because you left them when they were younger.
Well, it's be kind. And if you have someone that's not treating you so well, and I just think what we say and put out there, even if we're not being treated well by someone, we need to still be positive and move forward, because if we take on that vibe, we can't control that person. And I've taught that to my children. If they're not being kind to you at school, there's other friends that you can play with. And then if that child wants to come to you to play someday because nobody's playing with them, you have the choice to choose to play with them and be kind, or you can tell them you have other plans. And your other plans can be to go read a book, take a bath. You have a plan for yourself if someone's not treating you kind. So I've taught that to my kids. I think that's very important that they choose who their people are. You don't have to let everybody in, because
Great advice.
yeah.
That is so true.
Hmm.
And we were also talking about on our walk today that, our friendship through the course of our lives will change and perspectives. So that in grade school, middle school, high school, there's like this whole need to belong.
Yeah.
And then we get into this period as women.
Yeah.
We start to get really competitive, like in our college years or in our early 20s, where it's like this funky, weird competition. And it's even, it shows up in our workplace. Right. So how have you ever had to deal with that?
Well, I think from a very young age, I wanted to be a nanny. I don't know. I wanted to be a mom. I thought I'd be a great mom and a great wife, and life didn't lead me that way, which is very interesting. And there's always hope for, but
Which hope? The having
I
children?
already have the kids,
Okay,
right? I mean, yeah,
that's
there's
taken
no
care of.
doubting that. Yeah. So anyway, I can always hope that there might be another person, but I'll always be happy waiting.
Well, and isn't it our own responsibility at the end of the day for happiness that we can't
Yes.
rely on
Yeah.
anyone
Yeah.
else to make us
Yeah.
happy? That we
Mm-hmm.
have to be responsible
Yeah.
and mindful in choosing
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
happiness.
Yes, I agree fully. I'm trying to think of what you,
Well, because of the advice, maybe as far as, or even just insight, as you have been, because I'm curious, honestly, did
yeah,
you ever have this sense of like with the parents,
yeah.
did they ever feel threatened because of how good of a nanny you are?
Um, I feel like maybe they felt like they were missing out because they wanted to do some of the things that I was doing. You know, going to the park, going to the museums, going to the theater and some plays, music class. Gosh, I got to do all of that with them. There has to be some part of them that feels like they're missing out. Um,
Did you have already that compassion, knowing that that was probably what
I
you
did.
were feeling,
Mhm.
or the sense of
Mhm.
maybe we want you to be close and take
Yeah.
good these are our children. We're investing in you to take good care of
Yeah.
them. And so, but at the same time, do you ever wonder if maybe there was a sense of like, I don't want to be replaced though either.
Yes. Yes, definitely. 100%. Um, but it's the choice, right? And so they have to accept that that was their choice, and they were fortunate enough to have me. Very blessed. That they didn't have to worry about who was coming in the next day. Um, but I can't answer how they might feel. I don't want to put words or anything into that, but there has to be something in there that feels like you wish you were home with your kids. But then Karla is.
Hmm.
So I think they were reassured.
The confidence that their kids
Hmm.
were going to be well taken care of, never the
Yes.
sense of, I'm not home, and the guilt again. When we talk about the guilt and shame
Yeah.
of like I can't be there for
Yeah.
them, but if I'm going to have a replacement, this is who I have.
Yeah.
I felt that way about my mother watching
Yeah.
my oldest for 1 year.
Yeah.
There's that sense of like you can't have a family member, but
Right.
you can trust Karla,
Yeah.
and that
Yes.
I see
Yeah.
is the transferring of skill set that you can apply to anything because hey, I was in the corporate world
Yeah.
and I had a lot of disappointments in thinking that my best allies would be
Yeah.
women, and many times that
Right.
failed me.
Well, and that's what you were saying. That's what the question or you had asked me about going through. I knew at a young age that I actually wanted to work from home and I wanted to be a nanny. Everybody thinks I'm an extrovert, but I am very introverted also. I like being home. I like reading. After work, after nannying all day as just, with the kids and it was one on one, I went home by myself. And I spent a lot of time alone. I guess that's why when I get out, I make friends with everybody. But I knew I didn't want to work in corporate. I knew I didn't want to deal with some of those, how I taught the kids. Um, you don't have to play with someone who's not being nice. I didn't even think I wanted to go there. So that's why I did choose being a nanny. I didn't want to be in the corporate world. I thought it would be stressful and in a cubicle. I'd rather be at the pool and splashing around and throwing water balloons and yeah, so that was more me.
Great perspective though, as far as how you would use your skill set and that sense of caring for others,
Yeah.
because what a wonderful
Yeah.
gift that you're giving to these kids that
Mhm.
they had that as they were growing up to
Yeah.
witness.
Yeah. Yeah. And
because
same for me.
well, and that so it was symbiotic as far as like the synergy of the relationship
Yeah.
and being able to be loved by not only kids, but the parents.
Yeah.
So now as you're making your
Yeah.
transition into the very next thing, at the end of the day, it's about no matter what your skill set is and the fact that you have this long resume of caretaking.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that anybody who's going to be looking at your resume and who you are as a person, making this transition, hey, if I could hire someone with skill sets that match, but I don't like them because their personality is a little harsh or whatever the case may be, versus, hey, somebody who's willing to learn and has done so well in whatever their previous career, vocation, and they're so dang likable. I would imagine that you're going to be successful no matter what you do.
Oh, well, thank you.
I do. I believe that.
Well, thank you. And I just enjoy you, and I love how you're uplifting, and you've been part of my transition. And I'll even say, I didn't leave my friends. They're supporting me. They're supporting me from a distance. My family, um, I have them, so I shouldn't really say that I'm doing this alone.
Yeah, I'm glad you're recognizing that. I'm glad we never do anything alone.
Right.
And even, when we say alone, it might feel lonely at the time.
Yeah.
And you have a way about you that you attract people no matter what. But, sometimes it does feel as though we go through something because we won't have anyone else understand exactly how we feel.
Yeah.
And there's always this element of, I hope I did the right thing.
Yeah. Well, and when I make those choices, what it really comes down to when I'm feeling that, it's more humbling. I kind of soak myself in this humbleness of being quiet and absorbing what I've done in life and how I've been brought here. When I signed up for my courses, it was like a couple of days of humbleness, like a little bit of shock, like, okay, I'm doing it. And to pull yourself in and to be humble about how you got here and um, absorbing where you're headed, what that might be, it's different for all of us and it's exciting. So I think after you set in that humbleness, what sets in next is the excitement. Woohoo, here I go. Let's do it.
Well, and you think also there has to be an element of trust.
Oh gosh. Well,
trust in whatever the higher power universe in yourself.
It's big in yourself. And that's where I have a lot of friends like you who support that, and lead me and cheer for me and help me believe in myself more than I already do. And that's why you find your people.
I do agree with that. Like you have your tribe, and I think that's what you created. You were able to find your tribe in your friendships, in the families, and that to be able to take that leap and trust that no matter what the exam that you're going to be taking, wherever you land, that you'll trust the process of this period where we call it the void a little bit, the creative void that says just step back in order for the surrendering and the process of allowing whatever might be to present itself.
Yeah.
Are you there?
I'm there.
Oh, I love it.
I'm there.
Yeah. Karla, I can't wait to hear the next chapter coming to fruition with you because I know that it's going to be interesting. It's going to be exciting. And many are probably watching from Michigan and Colorado to see what happens next for you because it's going to be their roadmap of sorts on is it safe for them? And a lot of us are waiting for a sign or, is this the perfect time or the perfect opportunity? And sometimes we just have to create it.
Yes, you do have to create it. You got to go for it.
And then let go of the reins.
Yep. Yep. I agree.
Do you have any final thoughts?
Well, I was just, it really is your tribe and your people and your family. they are your supporters and they're your cheerleaders, and keep them close, right? I mean, that's why my life is so amazing. It's my relationships. It really isn't about other things, about what size my house is. I know someone, they'll like me no matter what car I drive. It's really not about that. It's about your heart and um like what a good friend I have in you, and how I view that is a reflection of me. And my friends are all reflections of who I am. And so that is the thing that gets me through.
Well,
Yeah.
on that note,
Yeah.
Karla, thank you for being on my show.
Oh,
Thanks for being here in a Prosecco.
yeah.
Cheers to you and your new
Cheers.
adventure. I know
Thank
it's going to
you.
be great. Can't wait to watch it
Thank you.
continue to unfold.
Yes, thank you.
And all of you, cheers.
Cheers.
And be sure to also, whatever you're toasting to, the holidays, just know that you're worthy, you're worth it. Cheers.
Cheers.
If you enjoyed this episode of In a Prosecco, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted. Rate and review the show, and please do comment and share ideas for topics that are important to you. A friend who cares is a friend who shares. Here's a toast to you on your re-inspirement journey. Cheers.